another day.
Another day expect.
Yeah.
Those days at the factory, long gone. What East Central Indiana is doing now to move its manufacturing economy of the past into the future. Plus,
drive gets to the rim.
The nation's first girls sport and leadership complex.
Northwest Indiana changing the game to showcase women's sports now and for future generations. The connection between Tamika Catchings, Billie Jean King, Title IX, and the Bai family. And a Hoosier-based company getting positive response on Wall Street for its treatments to help people lose weight.
Catchings for the win. Got it!
It's all next on Inside Indiana Business.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick, presented by Elevate Ventures, Indiana University, and Liuna.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick, coming to you this week from the heart of East Central Indiana, Muncie. We are in Muncie for our Engage Indiana series. This city, the fourth of 9 stops we are making around the state of Indiana on our 2024 Engage Indiana series. You know, this is a city and a region that for more than a century was really deeply rooted in manufacturing. It was this region's identity. But many of the traditional manufacturing plants that dotted the East Central Indiana landscape.
A shift change at Borg Warner in Muncie. Employees got word Thursday morning the plant is closing.
They're no longer here. And a region once defined by manufacturing is redefining its economy, its image, and its future.
Getting ready for another day at the plant.
The traditional manufacturing heritage in Muncie and East Central Indiana runs deep. But the decline and departure of iconic names that helped build the region, Ball, Borg Warner, Westinghouse, sent the economy into a decades-long downturn.
They've been downsizing, getting rid of our product line, so we knew it was coming, we just didn't know when.
Unemployment increased, population decreased. But there are signs this proud region is quietly poised for a comeback.
There's so much potential, and there's so many things happening in the region that we don't always do a great job of touting our successes. So really over the last 3 years, there's been over 2,000 jobs committed, over $2.2 billion of investment, and I don't think anyone really grasps those figures on a regional scale.
We are proud to bring to Muncie an infinitely recyclable and sustainable product while providing well-paying, skilled jobs.
Case in point, in 2021, Poland-based CanPack picked Muncie for a state-of-the-art aluminum beverage can manufacturing plant that now employs more than 300. Manufacturing here is also diversifying. The region's cluster of food processing companies, from Tyson Foods in Portland to Boar's Head in Newcastle, is continuing to grow, as is a burgeoning pet food manufacturing hub near Richmond, where General Mills Blue Buffalo is finishing a $200 million expansion. For the first time in decades, there are signs of population increases in parts of the region and signs of increased interest in downtown Muncie.
There was a point where we had to make a decision. Are we going to invest and stay here in Muncie, or are we going to go somewhere else?
Wealth management software company Accutech Systems turned down offers from around the country to stay home and move downtown. CEO Adam Unger, a Muncie native and Ball State grad, senses momentum in his hometown.
It's growing up here and, really seeing a Rust Belt city like Muncie that was hit hard, losing a lot of big jobs and big employers, and saying, let's, instead of going for maybe greener pastures, it might be easier, let's feel what, my wife and I talked about it and prayed about it and said, this is what we think we're called to do, is try to stay home and make an impact where we grew up. So when you see investment starting to be made, especially in our downtown, which I believe is kind of the heart of our city, I think that begets new investment. And we're seeing more people have courage and take steps towards revitalization that we haven't seen in the past decade.
Educational change is happening in Muncie as well. 6 years ago, Ball State University stirred controversy with its takeover of the troubled Muncie Community School System. BSU President Jeff Mearns says the move has been positive, with implications for talent attraction.
High-quality public schools are the cornerstone, the foundation for any strong community, for every strong city or region. And over the last 5 or 6 years, as a result of our partnership with the Muncie Community Schools, that school district is on the rise. They have the resources to invest in teachers and staff. In just 6 years, we've increased teacher compensation by 40%. So teacher retention is up. We're able to recruit and retain outstanding teachers.
And Ball State is the recipient of a $35 million grant from Lilly Endowment that some say will transform Muncie from a town with a college to a cool college town. The grant will help fuel a $200 million makeover of the nearby village, including a new performing arts center.
Yeah, there are so many really cool college campuses in the country that attract people. You know, it's a great place to live and work and to have entertainment value types of things. And the old Ball State was kind of isolated a little. I think other universities have been the same way. And now with this integration, it allows Ball State and Muncie to become a really cool place to live and work.
Indeed, a transitional time here in East Central Indiana. Well, when we come back,
there is no one like Caitlin Clark.
6 on the shot clock. Clark, a deep three.
Women's sports in the spotlight, thanks in large part to Caitlin Clark. Find out about big plans for a new women's sports complex coming to Northwest Indiana.
Who knew superstar singer, songwriter, and composer Barry Manilow had a strong connection to East Central Indiana? Manilow started the first part of his career singing and playing at the Holiday Inn Hotel Lounge in Richmond.
Bloomington, Indiana is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Indiana University helps spark the economy and makes life in a college town better. We are connected to a national forest and home to 3 lakes. It starts with a visit. Plan yours at visitbloomington.com.
He was born in 1867, and he was born here in Millville, Indiana.
He was one of the fathers of flight. Aviation pioneer Wilbur Wright, the pride of Henry County, Indiana.
Millville, part of the East Central Indiana region. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we are in Muncie and East Central Indiana for our Engage Indiana series. Ball State University playing host for us this week to more than 300 business and community leaders and a presentation from Secretary of Commerce David Rosenberg, who believes things are beginning to make a turn in the region.
The right parties are at the table right now to really take that next jump. You obviously have the eds and meds strategy when you look across the region from the universities that are here, Ball State and the Anchor Campus, IU, Ivy Tech, others operating here, Earlham, Taylor, Indiana Wesleyan. You also have one of the largest health networks here at Ball Memorial, but also Reed Health. So I think the anchor tenants are really here in place to take that next step. While there's been some tough times in the past, I think we're seeing that reemergence and again, the parties are at the table taking the right steps, looking long-term on how to figure out what that next life is for this area.
Once again, East Central Indiana, the 4th of 9 Engage events for us this year. Up next, Greater Lafayette, West Lafayette, September 30th on the campus of Purdue University. And you can get your tickets to that event at ibj.com/engage. It's time now to get caught up on business news from around the state of Indiana, including big plans for a women's sports complex in Northwest Indiana. For that, let's send it back to the studio and Mary Rachel Redmond.
Well, Gary, it's a groundbreaking initiative set to transform the landscape for young female athletes across the country, and it's going to take place right here in the state of Indiana. It's called the Marvella Project, a landmark initiative that promises to revolutionize women's sports and inspire future generations.
I was once that little Iowa girl who was inspired to dream big.
Clark, yes!
Caitlin Clark has undoubtedly brought a spark back to women's sports. And now Indiana looking to capitalize on that momentum with Marvella, a state-of-the-art athletic complex dedicated exclusively to young female athletes.
Marvella is the nation's first girls sport and leadership complex that is primarily built around the value and the importance of team, physical fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness, bringing all of those components together to really build strong girls to be successful in their journey in life.
Spanning 120 acres, Marvella will offer a number of training facilities designed specifically for female athletes, including cutting-edge technology, holistic health support, and mentorship programs.
The amenities will be designed first and foremost for the needs of girls. It includes, 12 multi-purpose outdoor playing fields, a massive indoor athletic training center that includes multi-use indoor fields, 8 basketball courts, up to 14 volleyball courts, a training center. And then separately, we'll have our leadership center that within that center, you'll have your leadership teaching, and we'll have featured speakers.
And who better to lead Marvella than Fever president Allison Barber, who announced earlier this month she'll be leaving the franchise at the end of this season to help spearhead the initiative.
I've learned from my players and coaches that the value of team sport, even though it can be so hard emotionally, physically, mentally, it can be hard, but you have a team that comes around you to help you through the difficult times. All of those components and characteristics will be front and center at the Marvella Project. And, when I look at the research from NIH, where 5 million kids are dealing with depression in our country, more girls than boys. And then I look at the research from the Cleveland Clinic that says one thing you can do to mitigate depression is physical activity. I look at that and just say, this is a pathway to success.
Marvella Project named in honor of the late Senator Birch Bayy's wife, Marvella. Birch Bayh, considered the father of Title IX, which opened the floodgates for female athletes.
Here's what's making news around Indiana. Brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors. Indiana's 21,000 realtors. The neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
Record-breaking economic numbers coming in this week from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. The IEDC reporting Indiana secured $38 billion in investments over the first 3 quarters of the year, which tops all investments from last year. Breaking it down a little more, nearly 125 companies have committed to locate or expand in Indiana so far in 2024, creating more than 13,000 new jobs with an average pay of more than $77 a year. Work on a project to connect Evansville to Henderson, Kentucky is beginning on the Indiana side. The Ohio River Crossing project broke ground Tuesday. It focuses on roadways and bridges that will provide access to the Ohio River, where a new bridge will eventually be built. Construction is set to start later this month and continue through 2026. South Bend-based R-Scan is about to launch a major expansion after receiving more than $1 million in tax credits from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. The company plans to add around 150 jobs for Hoosiers. R-Scan buys return products from retailers and then sells them on to other smaller resellers. Still ahead, a big bump on Wall Street for an Indiana company developing treatments to battle obesity and other disorders. What it all means in this week's Business of Health. This young man, one of 4 out of 10 Americans battling obesity, a disease that kills more than 4 million people each year. Indiana companies are taking the lead in developing treatments for those dealing with the problem. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta is here with details. Kylie?
Thanks, Mary. Rachel, some are calling it the obesity treatment revolution, and an Indiana player took a major step forward in advancing its potential drugs. Carmel-based MBX Biosciences made its debut on the Nasdaq about 1 week ago and saw its shares jump 48% from its initial public offering. Analysts say the strong investor demand reflects the general enthusiasm for obesity treatments. MBX's lead drug candidate treats an uncommon endocrine disease, and the startup is also developing an anti-obesity drug.
Going public is like opening a door for us and provides access to new resources we didn't have before. And as pleased as we are with it, it really is a means to an end. And we believe it helps bring us closer to our ultimate goal, which is bringing new medicines to the patients who need them.
The 5-year-old company is the brainchild of Dr. Richard DeMarchi, a serial entrepreneur in Indiana. His other startups have seen great success, collecting more than $500 million for founders and investors. On board with Scott Dixon, where you get a sense of how sharp his eyes must be to maneuver a race car at speeds of 230 miles per hour. Now Dixon and other IndyCar drivers will have access to state-of-the-art equipment to test their vision. California-based Topcon Healthcare partnering with IndyCar to make sure drivers are safe on the track.
That's fascinating. But
Yes.
getting back to your first story about MBX, they've got a fascinating co-founder.
Yes, so Dr. DeMarchi, his involvement, you cannot understate it for Indiana's life sciences. He's an IU chemistry professor right now, but he's a Lilly veteran. He's considered one of the founding fathers of the obesity drugs there. Now, he's gone on since then, obviously, founded a lot of startups, and like we mentioned, over $500 million. All those startups have sold for a grand total. So you can't overestimate his impact on the life sciences economy here in Indiana.
In Indiana, and really the world.
Right, and you know, there's another one coming. So this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Great stuff, Kylie.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, let's send it back out to Gary at the IBJ Media Engage event in Muncie. Gary?
All right, thanks, Mary Rachel. Well, East Central Indiana's strategy for bouncing back from some tough economic times. We'll explore some of the big projects on the drawing board here in East Central Indiana when we return.
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC
We begin
Bank.
in South Bend, where the University of Notre Dame is charting a new, more affordable course that will allow more students to study there. The program is called Pathways to Notre Dame, and it includes 2 initiatives: a new no-loan policy for undergraduate students and an extension of Notre Dame's need-blind policy, which is the university's commitment to not consider a student's financial situation when deciding to admit them. Students at IU Kokomo now have a new learning space. Innovation Hall features several spaces, including a multicultural center, esports arena, and technology studio. Chancellor Mark Canada says Innovation Hall will bring the university's work and reputation to a higher level. Hoosier Tech Trailblazers in the spotlight. Women in Tech Week is dedicated to showcase the women teaching and shaping technology in Indiana. Women like Rose Homeland Institute of Technology Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Carlotta Berry, who is on a mission to get more minorities into STEM fields, specifically through robotics.
When I talk to young people, tell me what you like, and I can show you something about robotics or STEM that relates to that. I think that's a big way of doing it, and not thinking there's a cookie cutter way I have to get you into STEM.
Carlotta Berry, my guest on the latest Business and Beyond podcast. You can check it out at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Dr. Carlotta Berry, indeed making a difference in Terre Haute and the Wabash Valley and far beyond as well. Well, East Central Indiana has certainly faced more than its fair share of economic challenges over the past several decades, including a painful transition that is now underway. But there are some signs and reasons for optimism. Along the White River here, as an example, this beginning to be cleared out for development. White River Lofts, an apartment complex here, providing much needed housing for the region. There is also a groundswell of community support and some big projects on the regional drawing board. New projects and new initiatives are aimed at changing the face and trajectory of East Central Indiana. In Marion, a community hit hard by cutbacks in the auto industry and the closing of a longtime RCA plant, there's an effort to make the city a center for skilled workers.
Unfortunately, RCA is not coming back and building 2 TVs anymore. So we have to redefine ourselves and create a new future. So one thing that we're pushing is to try to become the trade capital of the state. So I've recently done a deal with our Ivy Tech to be able to allow students who graduate from Marion High School to be able to go study trades at Ivy Tech for free.
More broadly, the region is exploring new sectors of the economy, like eds and meds, bringing higher education and healthcare institutions together to fuel a talent pipeline. And cybersecurity.
We were told at an event back on July 26th here, we had the military, local government, private sector, all law enforcement, all these folks. We were told there's 9,000 job openings for cybersecurity employees in this state alone. So that is an incredible opportunity and a need.
Big projects in the region include a $10.8 million mixed-use development in Marion's newly created Riverfront District. River Rock Lofts would add 44 apartments, retail, and a public plaza along a river walk. Meantime, Lilly Endowment's College and Community Collaboration Initiative is directing nearly $115 million in grants to universities in East Central Indiana. Indiana Wesleyan will use a $24.3 million grant, the largest in its history, to help fund a project focused on early learning services and community wellness throughout the Grant County region. In nearby Upland, ground has been broken on the Main Street Mile, a path connecting Taylor University with the Upland Business District. Lilly funding combining with private sector money that could result in $100 million in projects over 5 years that include market rate apartments, housing, and a boutique hotel. In Richmond, Earlham College will use a $25 million grant to fuel Revitalize Richmond, an effort that includes plans for new urban housing in downtown Richmond and improved transit connecting the Earlham campus to downtown.
And before we wrap up from East Central Indiana, another tidbit about the region.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Your old friend, Singin' Sam the Barbasol Man.
Barbasol, Barbasol. That's Richmond's own Harry Frankel, the highest paid radio performer of his time back in the 1930s.
Good evening, folks. How y'all this evening?
Well, that's a wrap from East Central Indiana and IBJ Media's Engage Indiana series, the fourth of 9 events we're holding around the state of Indiana. As we leave you this week, some images taken by Chief Photographer Clint Ehrbacher from throughout the region. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can get the latest business news from every corner of the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.